Good morning, everyone. I am EnGenius James, and let's wait a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, until we really start with my presentation. Just hold on for a while. Okay, again, good morning, everyone. I am EnGenius James, and I'm product manager for the EnGenius Networks Europe's office in the Netherlands, in Eindhoven. And yeah, let's start with this webinar today. So today we are going to have a very short webinar, actually. It's about the switch surveillance features. Let's see, what's my next slide? Okay, so today we have a brief webinar about two models of switches that will be available soon, and the special functions that are supported. So today we're going to talk about the new half PoE switches, which is the ECS 1552P and the ECS 1528P. And these two models are equipped with the new surveillance features, which is the PoE extended mode, the PoE Lifeguard function, and continuous PoE power. Okay, so this is our current line of hybrid PoE plus switches, PoE plus and L2 plus managed switches. This line is based on 1 gigabit copper ports. We also have 2.5 gigabit switches and 2.5 on the copper ports, and we have also a few models which are having 10 gigabit copper ports, but those are in a different section. So today we are going to talk about the section where we have 1 gigabit ports on copper. So as we see now, this is our current existing product line, and yeah, so we have 48 port switches here. We have 24 port switches, and we also have 8 or 10 gigabit switches also in the lower end. So far at this moment, we have a full PoE switch on a 48 port, which is 740 watts, and we have a full PoE 24 port switch, which is 410 watts. Okay, and besides this, we also have two non-PoE switches. Okay, so from our previous experience, we see that there is a lot of demand in different variation of switches. It all depends on your deployment. What do you need, and how much budget do you have, especially when you are going to roll out a very a network with a lot of network ports, then and you have whole server cabinet with switches, it's very significant that you can find the correct switch model. And in switch terms, the PoE budget is taking a very big part of the price and the cost of the switches. So that's why, and also in our previous product solution, which is the EWS solution, the EnSky solution, we had a lot of variation in switches, and there is a lot of, how to say, different demands according to whatever project that you are doing. So that's why also in our current ECS product line, we also want to extend and make our product line a little bit more detailed to be able to offer you the right switch for any deployment that you are going to roll out. So with that said, inside the 48 port switch part and also the 24 port switch part, we're going to add 2 new models. Okay, so these are the new models that we're going to talk about today. These are the ECS 1552P switches and the ECS 1528P. These are so-called half PoE switches, where you can actually see that the 48 port model has a 410 watt power budget, and the 24 port has a 240 watt power budget. So they take place here between the non-PoE and the full PoE switches. And what is new for today actually is that both of these switches, and on the launch, they will support with the surveillance features. Okay. So just looking at the switches at this moment, so the ECS 1552P and the 1528P, both switches are hybrid switches. When we launched our cloud switches, the ECS series, we decided to make our switches to be hybrid. In contrary to the cloud access points, cloud access points are only to be used to be managed by the cloud. The switches, however, we decided to make them hybrid, and hybrid means that they can work standalone. That means that you do not have to manage it. You can just access the switch by the local user interface, and you can do all the configurations and all the settings, the parameters. You can do it inside the switch interface. So it can be as any normal switch that you have, a managed switch, that you enter the user interface to do all the settings there. Okay. This standalone interface will always be accessible, and you'll be always, no matter if you also manage it by the cloud or manage it by EasyMaster, you can still do some settings in the switch to even override the settings that are managed by the cloud or by the EasyMaster. That brings me to the other 2 ways of managing these switches, and that's the fact that the switches are actually designed to be managed by the cloud. Okay, so specially designed for the cloud, meaning that with the EnGenius Cloud solution, you can actually manage these switches. At this moment, of course, we have our EnGenius Cloud, and you can actually manage most of the functions of the switch from the cloud. We also have the Pro version of the cloud that has a little bit more detailed management of the features that are available in the switch. It depends on which subscription, or you have a free version or you have the Pro version of the cloud. There is a little bit difference in there. Still, if you don't have a Pro license, then you can still manage all the features from standalone. I will also highlight that a little bit later as well. So hybrid again, so standalone, managed by cloud, and managed by EasyMaster. Okay, so we also made all the cloud switches be manageable by our other management solution or management platform, which is EasyMaster. So hybrid means that all these switches can be standalone, managed by cloud, or managed by EasyMaster. Keep in mind that the EWS switches, the old series of switches, they are not able to be managed by the EnGenius Cloud. They can only be managed by EasyMaster or in standalone. So these switches are very versatile, and if you have an ECS switch, you can just manage it in any way. Yeah, in all these ways that we are providing to you. Okay, so our cloud switches, the ECS series, are all fully layer 2, and that means that all the available layer 2 functionalities are available in the whole switch product line of the ECS series. On top of that, so it's a layer 2 plus switch. On top of that, there is also a list of features. Layer 3 features additionally on top of this layer 2 functionalities to make this switch even more feature rich. So this is a very plus, and if you want to compare with other brands, yeah, we have some advantages that will make our switches more valuable for the cost. Again here, half power PoE. As I mentioned, these specific two switches, ECS 1552P and 5028P, where the P stands for PoE, it's half PoE. If you look back, the other models that we have, it's either without a P, so it's no PoE, and the other one is FP, which stands for full power. This is how you can actually recognize what kind of PoE level it has from the item code already. So half power, 410 watts for the 48 port switch and 240 watts for the 24 port switch. Right, 48 port and 24 gigabit Ethernet port. So all these in this series, we are talking about the gigabit copper ports, and on top of that, we have 10 gigabit as a 3+ ports for uplinks to other switches or other buildings, switches in other buildings. So on top of this, just saying that, okay, this is a layer 2+ switch managed by hybrid managed either standalone by cloud or by EasyMaster. Very feature-rich switch. On top of that, we also introduce the surveillance features. Surveillance features. So surveillance is a vertical channel that is very important for EnGenius. We have many customers in this channel, and to improve the functionality and to improve the value of the switches, we now are going to introduce these new additional features to improve the quality of the deployment by applying these new features. For the record, the surveillance features are functions that work based on PoE. So you will only be able to find these features in PoE switches. And we call it surveillance features because the features are actually designed to be used in combination with IP cameras. But I can definitely imagine that some of the features can also be very interesting for devices not being an IP camera, for access points, for example. Okay, I will come back to that later. So what are the features that we have in the surveillance features. We actually have 3 features, and the first one is the PoE extended mode. Okay, if we look at the PoE extended mode, it's a special function. Normally, PoE can reach up to 100 meter. Okay, and especially in surveillance deployments, we can definitely imagine that maybe 100 meter is not enough. If you want to place a few cameras, yeah, you have to put the wiring around the building, and maybe you first have to go 20 meter up, and then you have to go 50 meters, 60 meters, 70 meter further, and then you have to go another 20 meter down, and then you have to go around the corner, and then you're already over the 100 meters. And with the PoE extended mode, we actually cater the fact that you can extend or use a longer cable to the camera to make the connection, yeah, from the switch to the camera. So it extends the cable length up to 250 meters. And we have to understand that it's very important that we understand that with this function, the data rate will be limited to 10 megabits per second. It's a kind of like a feature where the whole data is going to be trimmed down, but the power is going to be increased to be able to get a higher distance. For your reference, at 10 megabit per second, I did some rechecking here and there, and I came to the conclusion that even for full HD, 10 megabit per second would be enough if you use the right compression. Just for reference, a full HD stream with an average movement of 50%, with a resolution, of course, 1920 by 1080 at 25 frames per second, it will occupy less than 5 megabit per second. If you're using H.264, then you can and on high quality, it will take still less than 5 megabit per second. And if you increase the frame rate up to 50 FPS, then it will be still less than 10 megabit per second. So still for full HD, definitely it's no problem to downgrade your data rate to 10 megabit per second. So and you probably don't want to use extended mode for all your cameras that you are connected to the switch. Maybe there is 1 or 2 switch cameras on your switch that you want to use the PoE extended mode, and you can actually, from the interface, you can select which port that you want to enable the PoE extended mode. Please also keep in mind that the actual performance, of course, is also based on the cable quality, the Ethernet cable quality. So also here, keep in mind, bear in mind that you want to use decent cabling for your infrastructure. So that was the PoE extended mode. Then the other function is the PoE Lifeguard function. Okay, so PoE Lifeguard function, it's a kind of system where this function uses LLDP technology in real time to monitor the status of the, yeah, I write here camera, but it can also be an access point, for example, or a telephone or whatever. The switch will check at adjustable interval if the camera is, or the device is online, and it will ask to respond to the question. And once the camera does not respond to the switch will turn off and then resume the PoE power to reboot the camera or any other device, to force the device to reboot. And from experience, this is most of the times this will solve the problem in case there is maybe the camera hangs for some reason, or maybe an access point hangs for some reason, and it is not able to reply anymore to the switch. Reboot, and it will start all over again in a basic startup setup has been set up before. So as I said, not only for cameras, also will be useful for any other device, VoIP telephones or access points. Is also usable to use this PoE Lifeguard function. The last feature that is new is the continuous PoE power. So far, we have to understand that our switches, the ECS series, they are cloud switches, and the firmware upgrade, at least the firmware upgrade, is automatically, you have to automatically upgrade the cloud will automatically do firmware upgrades, because you have to set in the cloud that you want to either always use beta firmware or the latest firmware or the previous firmware. So the switch will be regularly updated when there is an update available. And especially when you are having a camera set up, then you don't want to interrupt, for sure, not the recording of the device. So what is built in our switches is to have continuous PoE power. That means that on the moment that the switch is doing a firmware upgrade, the switch will still provide, the PoE will continue to provide. That means that the camera will still be powered continuously, and it will keep on running. So for example, if you are having an SD card in your camera, that recording can still continue to take place, so it will not interrupt the recording from the camera. So you will not have any time gap here in the monitoring of the camera. Okay, so far for the 3 surveillance functions, I have 2 important remarks that is normally not written in the data sheet and in the marketing newsletters, and that's one of the following things. These are the 2 following things. So first of all, need to mention here that the 3 surveillance functions will be available. If you look at which management platform you use. So in standalone, all those 3 surveillance functions, to manage, to enable, or to disable, you can do it in standalone mode. That's for sure possible. Of course, with our EasyMaster, it's also going to be built in. The firmware is currently in development, will be released soon. With EasyMaster, you can also manage those 3 surveillance functions. Okay, a little bit different story from the cloud. And in our cloud solution, the management of those security features, surveillance features, will be only available under the Pro license. Okay, so that means that with the basic license, you will not be able to manage the features from the cloud. Okay, however, as I mentioned before, as I mentioned before, in standalone, you can always access the features. So if you access the switch by the local user interface, you can still enable the surveillance features in the standalone mode or by the local user interface. So if you have a camera that one camera that's on 200 meter, you don't have to buy a Pro license to enable that feature. So this is still possible. So you don't, for these features, you don't have to obligated to buy the Pro license for using the surveillance features. Okay, Yeah, so far for the first remark that I have. Second remark that I have is the feature support. Okay, so at this moment we're going to launch these two models, ECS 1528P, which is going to be a new model, together with the 1552P, also a new model, and all the three features, they are available in all those two switches. Okay, so as I mentioned, we have also the full power models of these 24 and 48 port switches. So these two models that we have currently in our product line, the FP models, they will be able to they will be able to support two features, which is PoE Lifeguard and the PoE extended mode, after you upgrade to the firmware 1.1.47 and upwards. Okay, so this is something that you have to keep in mind. So if you have now a model, an FB model in stock, you can upgrade to this firmware and you can use the two features, PoE Lifeguard and PoE extended mode, simply because of the fact that the PoE continuous power, that is a special feature hardware-wise. So this hardware will not support that feature. However, later this year, we will release a V2 version of the hardware, where also the PoE continuous power will be available in the switches. So yes, with that said, this is actually the last slide for my presentation for today. So the need of surveillance is various from different applications, and it is critical to provide reliable and high quality video streaming at distances, real-time monitor and recover the surveillance in case of camera down, or keep the power supply during switch firmware upgrading. So at this moment, EnGenius offers this new series of switches, these new features, with to cater all these demands. So with this said, I would like to close my webinar. Let me let me keep the webinar open for if you have any questions. You can post them in the questions field. Either I will reply them directly, or I will reply them after the webinar, because the questions will be also recorded. Okay, just for your reference, in the handout section, you can download the presentation of this webinar. The recording of this webinar will be available later on our GoToStage platform. So take a look at that. Please also take a look at the partner portal. Next month we will have 3 new webinars again. So the plan is to have 3 webinars every month, and the ones for next month will be published soon. So keep an eye on that. And my colleagues will also work on that. So we will have a product talk webinar, a tech talk webinar, and a tips and tricks webinar. Okay, I have a question here. Will there be 8-port versions? At this moment, it would be possible to have it on 8-port if there is increased demand for 8-port, for this function to be able to be available on the 8-port. Then we will also apply it to those switches. PoE, I have another question here. PoE extended, can this also be used with AP, or is this only for cameras? Yes, PoE extended can of course also used for access points, but to be honest, you will downgrade the speed to 10 megabit per second. Like I give the explanation that for a full HD stream of 25 frames per second or even up to 50 frames per second, it's just enough for 10 megabit. But if you have an access point, yeah, then you will definitely downgrade the throughput of your access point. If it's enough for you, yes, you can use it for up to 250 meters. Yes, thank you for this question as well. Okay, any other more questions? Okay, let's see. Okay, if there are no more questions, I will close this webinar. And still, keep in mind that you can always send your questions to sales@engeniusnetworks.eu, or you just send me an email personally, james.roos@engeniusnetworks.eu. Okay, thank you all very much for your attendance here. Like I said, please keep an eye on the partner portal for the announcement of the new webinars, or on your email, because we also send newsletters to invite you to the next webinars. So 3 new webinars in April, and I hope to see you in the next webinar. Thank you very much, and keep in touch. Bye bye.